Scott Joplin, Childe Hassam, letter writing, and the 10-item wardrobe. Welcome to the Chic Assignment check-in for August 2019. Welcome back to the Daily Connoisseur. I have a lot of new subscribers, so I just want to introduce this series again briefly. My name is Jennifer, and I do the Chic Assignment once a month here on my YouTube channel. So every month I assign 4 things, and it usually involves listening to music, looking at artists, or reading poetry, and just other fun assignments that can really enrich your life. The idea behind this series is to encourage people to seek out the lovely, to always be learning and finding out interesting things, seeking out the arts, cultivating your mind. I do believe that we live in a very dumbed down culture. We have kind of mind-numbing entertainment, and that's what's widely accepted by people. But these Chic Assignments are really proving that there is a hunger for fine art, fine music, fine literature, and just elevating our lives in this way. So I find the Chic Assignment to be very therapeutic. This has been an interesting year. I know a lot of people personally who have had a really hard year, and I myself have actually had quite a stressful year. Don't really talk about it too much on the channel. But despite all of that, I really find comfort and solace in the Chic Assignment. I'm not kidding. I mean, I'm very impacted by it. And learning more about these artists and their lives, and also just doing these assignments, has just really brought me a lot of peace. A really big part about that is the community that I share with you, because I just love hearing from you on this, and I love that we're all doing this. So I just want to thank you before we dive in for participating in the Chic Assignment. All right, let's get right into it with Scott Joplin. So we departed from classical music for this month, and we're talking about ragtime. Ragtime is not jazz, and it's not classical. It's kind of like halfway in between. It's really a mixture of Black American folk music and classical music. So it's not quite jazz, but it's certainly where a lot of the ideas for jazz came from. So I found a website called kidsmusiccorner.co.uk, and it had some really interesting facts about Scott Joplin, so I'm just going to read those out to you right now. Okay, so Scott Joplin was the greatest composer of ragtime, and he's also often called the king of ragtime. I don't think anyone would argue with that. He made ragtime very popular. This made people ready to hear and write the jazz that came afterward, which is so true. When you go from classical music being popular for so many centuries, and you wonder, how did it get to jazz? Because that's quite different. Well, I guess this was the bridge that led there. Also set the scene for American popular music over the last century. Put simply, Scott Joplin has had a very big influence on jazz and popular music over the last 100 years. Like classical music, Scott Joplin's rags are written down exactly. So they are pieces to be played as written on the piano, and this is quite different from jazz, because in jazz there's a lot of improvisation where it's really up to the musician to go off and then they all come back together. I was never in a jazz band. I was in a more traditional orchestra when I was in school, so I never did jazz, but it is, a piece that you play exactly as it is written, and that's, what it's meant to do. He became famous with his piece, The Maple Leaf Rag. This piece appeared in 1899, and it sold, listen to this, it sold over 75,000 copies in the first 6 months. This is in 1899. That is huge. So the piece was named after the Maple Leaf Club where Scott Joplin used to play the piano. And yeah, that is incredible. So what makes it even more incredible was Scott Joplin's background. So the next fact about him is that his father had been a slave. So let that sink in. His father was a slave, and then he goes on to be such an accomplished musician. It gives me the chills. I have the chills. It's really remarkable. He was very lucky to learn music. Most Black American children around the time Scott Joplin was born would not have had this chance. His father certainly didn't want him to learn music. However, his mother was keen, and a kind local music teacher taught him for free. Oh, don't you just want to cry when you think about this? When you think about a mother's influence on someone. So his father did not want him necessarily to go into music, and you can understand that. You can't really blame the father, right? Because that's kind of like, you know, when your child says, oh, I want to be in a band, or I want to be an actress or something, and then you're thinking, great, you know, can you be a doctor or a lawyer or something like that? But the mother saw something in him and encouraged him, and then he had free lessons. This kind music teacher who gave him lessons for free as a child changed the course of history with that act of kindness. Changed the course of history, the trajectory of music with that act of kindness. I mean, that is pretty incredible. He also composed 2 operas as well as some other classical music. Scott Joplin tried very hard to make these operas popular, but they did not succeed. In the end, he died very disappointed with the failure of his operas. I looked into how he died, and he descended into dementia as a result of syphilis. So he died in the year 1916. And he died at the age of 48, so he was quite young. After Scott Joplin died, ragtime music was almost forgotten about as jazz became popular, but his music became popular again in the 1970s when The Entertainer was used in the 1973 film, The Sting. Do you remember that film? His music has been popular ever since. So Scott Joplin had a remarkable life, and one that impacted the entire world of music and beyond. And I just think that he is a remarkable person, and I really enjoyed listening to his music this month. We would have, you know, the YouTube videos that I listed for you down below. We would have those playing on in the background, and I find that they gave the children a lot of energy, and we would work really well to this music. So I hope that you enjoyed it too. Let us know down in the comment section below. I'm going to do something different where I cut to what you have said in the comment section, because I would like to include you more in these. So Christina writes, when I was a teenager, I loved to play ragtime music. I still love its happy energy. I watched your video today about the Chic assignments, but yesterday, before knowing them, I wrote short letters for my nieces and nephew on a small pad of beautiful stationery, and I mailed them off with gifts. Okay, next we are going to talk about our artist in residence this month, Frederick Childe Hassam. And I did look up how you pronounce his name because it's a bit confusing. Frederick Childe Hassam, and he was known as Childe Hassam. And he lived from 1859 to 1935. He died when he was 75 years old, I believe, so he did live a nice, long, and fruitful life. He was the American Impressionist painter, and I uncovered a treasure trove when I found his work because I was not familiar with him. Although, did you know this? I had a box of Christmas cards that I bought from Barnes & Noble years ago. I'm talking like a long time ago. 5-7 years ago, and I hadn't used them all. I had one or a few left even, and I recognized that this is him. So I have owned his work, and you know, I had seen his work before, I just didn't know that it was him. So I just want to go over a few of his paintings right now. But before that, I do want to read you a little bit about his life. Hassam produced over 3,000 paintings, oils, watercolors, etchings, and lithographs over the course of his career, and was an influential American artist of the early 20th century. He died in East Hampton in 1935 at the age of 75. So let's go through some of his artwork right now. I picked out some of my favorites to show you, but of course he has over 3,000 pieces of work, so there's so many, but I'm just picking out the ones that really spoke to me. So this first one, called The Room of Flowers, was painted in 1894. And I love this. I love just paintings of rooms. Fascinating, right? So the kids and I are doing art study, and we are studying Van Gogh right now. And we just did his bedroom in Arles. I just love looking at bedrooms, living rooms. I love it. I love looking at how people used to live. So what I noticed about this is that this room right here, the Room of Flowers, which looks like a living room or a sitting room, is really the antithesis of our modern minimalism aesthetic. So you'll go on YouTube and you'll see all sorts of people, you know, my minimalist home, minimalist living room, bedroom, and all of that. And the funny thing is that even though I am a minimalist in some ways, like I do the 10-item wardrobe and that type of thing, I am not in others. In that I actually don't like the minimalist aesthetic. I think it's quite cold for my taste. So I'm not, you know, insulting people who do it, but just for my taste, I like to be surrounded with books and flowers and musical instruments and rugs and paintings, and I love that kind of European look, and that really does remind me of Madame Chic's home. She didn't have any clutter, but it was just a beautifully decorated home that was, you know, it had a lot of paintings and furniture and upholstery and different patterns and that type of thing. And that's what this reminds me of. This is way more cluttered than Madame Chic's home, but just look at this. There's, you know, stacks of books. I see lots of flowers everywhere. Presumably they were picked in the garden. On the walls are lots of paintings. There's a lady laying down with her feet up reading a book. You almost don't see her at first when you look at it. What else is in here? I can't see that far. There's lots of flowers. You know, there's a rocking chair and lots of knickknacks and curios. And I just think that this looks like such an interesting room. This is the type of room that I would love to spend a afternoon in, reading, sipping tea, talking, chatting, listening to music, playing instruments, life, living, you know, and I love that. I think that this painting is beautiful, and it is truly in polar opposite to what we like today in our modern aesthetic. The Bowl of Goldfish, painted in 1912. I love this one too. And the woman is wearing a beautiful, it looks like a kimono robe. She's at home. And there's a shawl draped over the chair, the window's open, and there are some goldfish. And it's just a beautiful study in light. I love this one so much. I love scenes of domestic living, domestic bliss. And this looks like the same lady, and I wonder if this is his wife, listening to the Orchard Oriole in 1902. So she is on her porch, and she has a view that looks amazing. She's looking at the water, and it just looks like a peaceful golden afternoon. And she's wearing a similar, I don't know if that's a gown or a dressing gown or a kimono, but she looks relaxed and refreshed and contemplative. I think that we all can take something from this, right? We're so stressed out. We're always on our phones. It's like, no, just sometimes you just have to go on your porch and look out onto the street or into your garden. Terre Cuite tea set, 1910. And here's a lady taking tea. And again, these scenes, I love looking at women and how they dressed and what they did. And it looks like she's about to have a lovely tea. I don't know if someone's going to be joining here. I can't tell if that's another teacup there or if that is the milk jug. She could be taking tea by herself here. But how lovely to be out in the afternoon having a cup of tea by herself, like proper tea with biscuits and everything. And she's beautifully dressed sitting in the garden. I love her hat. Okay, the next one is the street scene, Christmas morning, 1892. And these were the cards that I had, and I didn't even know that they were Childe Hassam. And so the lady is dressed, and what I always wonder about this is how did women walk in the snow back then? You know, we have snow boots today, and we can tuck our pants into our boots and everything, but you know, she's in a cape and a dress and shoes, and she's walking around, so she's doing it, and I just love this painting. It just is Christmas, isn't it? The two little red baubles in her hat and the falling snow and the gift just really indicate that. Okay, so this, I have something quite funny for you now. This one is called At the Grand Prix in Paris, and it was painted in 1887. So this is at the Grand Prix. And here's just a scene of two ladies talking to some gentlemen. Notice how they're dressed. So they're wearing white. They have the hat, the parasol, the bustle, you know, they're dressed to the nines. And then I wanted to show you a modern scene of the Grand Prix, and this was in Monaco recently, and here's the audience here. So it's just an interesting study, isn't it? I mean, how dress sense has changed so much. I always think this, what if the people from the past, like all the people at the Grand Prix in Paris in 1887, could see the people in Monaco, you know, in 2019, and what would they think? Don't you think they'd be just stunned into silence? I'm not saying it's, you know, bad. I'm not trying to put down modern dress, but I just think that they would be stunned into silence. Just imagine if in 150 years or whatever, or 100 years, somebody shows you how people dress, you'll probably be stunned into silence. You'll just be like, you know, what is going on? Although I can't imagine, I feel like it's gotten so radical, I can't imagine how much more radical our dressing could get. The next one is maybe his most famous painting, or one of them. The South Ledges at Appledore, and he did a lot of paintings in Appledore, and this was painted in 1913, and again, I love this. It speaks to my heart. It's a lady with her sun hat, and she's taking some time in nature. Do you notice that they're taking time in nature, taking time to read, to reflect, to contemplate, something that I think we all should do. This one is his most famous, The Avenue in the Rain in 1917. and it depicts Fifth Avenue, New York City in the rain, draped with US flags. So this is a wonderful patriotic picture, and it's just great. I love Childe Hassam. I'm so glad that I have discovered him and learned more about him, and I hope that it has been very enriching for you as well. So I'm going to cut to a comment from a reader, and I believe this is Donna from A Lovely Inconsequence. Hello, Jennifer. I'm acquainted with Childe Hassam because I am from Boston, where his painting Boston Common at Twilight is very famous. It depicts a 19th century dusk in winter at the Boston Commons, and even today, if one knows a Boston winter, it can make you shiver. The composition's light is exactly as it is on a winter afternoon. My grandmother had a postcard of the painting on a bookshelf in her hallway. The next assignment was to write a letter. And so I actually write letters all the time, and this isn't something that I had to kind of force myself to do. I do write letters. You know, Ben's whole family lives in England, so I write letters to England frequently. We write letters to a child that we sponsor in Africa, and I also like to just write letters to friends. So I did that a lot this month, and the recipients are always happy. I remember my cousin Richie, I wrote him a letter, not this month, but you know, recently, and he said, you know, I never ever get letters from people, friendly letters, you know, it's always bills. So I always remembered that, and I thought that was cool. So when I was at my parents' house, I uncovered a lot. I uncovered vintage Victorian magazines, which if you haven't seen that video, I can link it below, but I found some magazines from 25 years ago and I flipped through them for you. But I also found this, and of course it's a little Victorian box because I was obsessed with the Victorian era. And in this box, it is just absolutely, I gotta cover the addresses, full of letters. So letters made up such a huge part of my childhood. These are all, it has a certain smell. These are all letters that I received from family members, cousins, friends. And it was so amazing to uncover this box and just open the letters and read. And I was instantly transported back to my childhood and just remembering things that I had forgotten. And I think it's so sad that we have lost this. It's so sad. We just do text messages and emails, and everything is so instant and brief, and you don't hold on to those things. I mean, you could go into your email and look up old emails, but it's not the same as opening up a box that smells like your childhood or like your past, and opening up letters and reading them on stationery, and what a beautiful thing. So I hope that writing letters has been a great experience for you if you're not in the habit of it. And I would definitely encourage you to keep going. Just like we, you know, we keep reading books, that's kind of like the 5th assignment. Keep writing letters to people. You know, put it on your calendar once a month to write letters. I know that many of you have shared what a great thing it is. Okay, so Martha B writes, I miss letter writing. My husband and I, who have been married 29 years, wrote letters to each other while he was in the Navy. We were dating then. While he was stationed in Egypt, I received a letter from my beloved every day. Ah, young love. We married in 1990, and that is one of the reasons I married him. I knew that if he took the time to write me a letter every day, that he must be a very committed and loyal person. Okay, Robin from Faith and Flower. Hi, Robin. My friend Robin said, wonderful as always, Jennifer. Letter writing is a lost art. I used to write to friends and family regularly, but admit that I've almost ceased entirely, always sending emails and texts instead. It would be a nice surprise to receive a handwritten letter, so I will do my best to bless someone this month. Okay, so the final chic assignment is to prepare your wardrobe for the transition in seasons. Now, the next video that you'll see, I believe, on this channel, the next 1 or 2 videos, will be my 10-item wardrobe end of summer recap. And I have a lot of strong thoughts on my wardrobe this year and deep revelations. So I will be going over those with you in that video. I'm not going to get too deep into it here. Although I did have a new purchase to my wardrobe, and that was the romper, which I shared in a video last week. Or I guess it's a jumpsuit because it's longer legs. So that was so funny because so many people had the comment about the bathroom with the jumpsuit. How do you use the bathroom? I could never wear a jumpsuit because of the bathroom and how you essentially have to take off the whole thing. And for me, yes, I totally hear you. If you need to be out in public, if you're with your children, probably best not to wear a jumpsuit. But I'm at home a lot and I don't really find it a problem at all, and I love my jumpsuit. So there you go. Trouble is with this time of year here anyway, it's so hot still that there's no you have to wear your summer clothes until it gets cool. So you could do a few transitional colors and that type of thing. But I'm really looking forward to doing my fall wardrobe because I'm not going to be breastfeeding anymore. I'm going to have a lot of options now with my wardrobe, which I didn't have before, which is why it was a bit restricted. So I am looking forward to that. So I'm going to get deeper into that in my next video. So I do hope that you join me for that. Okay, for what I have been reading this month, I have finished rereading the Map and Lucia books, so I will be doing the book club video soon. If you have any comments that you would like me to read in my book club video, I know I already received a great one from a reader. Let me know. So for the Map and Lucia book club, any questions or comments, leave them down below. And the other book that I am currently reading right now is called The Introverted Mom. And this book is blowing my mind. I cannot believe this. I want to get the author on and interview her because I am having so many revelations about myself and my nature through this book because I am an introvert, believe it or not, a strong introvert. So I'm just, I don't know. I have to finish the book and do an entire video about it, but that's what I'm reading right now. So I would love to know what you are reading. And I just want to thank you so much for doing these chic assignments with us. This is just an amazing part of my life and I feel very blessed to do this with you. So thank you so much. Give this video a thumbs up if you like seeing these longer videos from me. If you have a friend who is looking for more culture, more community connection, definitely share these videos with him or her. And thank you so much for joining me today on the Daily Connoisseur, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye everyone.